Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to our Fervent Friday series, episode number 3, with a new guest and one of my most favorite personalities, of course. Well, her name is Ms.Ainee Shehzad Salim, and she happens to be in the leadership role, mashallah. So let's hear from Ms. Ainee. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam, 𝐿𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐵. It's lovely to be here
Thank
and
you.
introducing myself well, in sync with today's topic. Let me say I'm a female living in Pakistan in the patriarchal society here. Somebody who has actually not just shattered the ceiling, the glass ceiling that we kind of allude to, but ever since I was young, not now, I have not seen any ceiling. So it's what you perceive. So there is no ceiling for me. I'm an engineer by education and an educator by profession. I have my educational consultancy and impact hundreds and thousands of students, teachers, the school landscape, education in our country. I'm a teacher trainer. I'm a module developer. And other than this, I'm a valedictorian Commonwealth Scholar from the Institute of Education (UCL) in the UK, and I am a big proponent of female emancipation, female empowerment. Um, and I would what I call honesty over modesty. I role play. So my life, it's not that I'm putting up an act, but thankfully, I think the way I live my life as a female in Pakistan is role modeling female empowerment. So that is my brief introduction.
Oh, that's so impressive, mashallah. The first time when I heard about you, it was like it just blew my mind, mashallah, that how can a person be this great? Like, wow, mashallah. And it's so good to be surrounded by, people like you. And one of the best parts that I've got this, I was fortunate enough to work with you, mashallah. And
Thank
yes,
you.
like most welcome. So, mashallah, that's so impressive. So, if I ask you about empowerment, like how do you perceive this terminology? Like, what's empowerment for you actually? How do you feel
So,
about it?
in my view, female empowerment is not by virtue. Empowerment means that if you're powerful, then what are those powerful qualities are powerful by virtue of having an impact, right? So, if you're empowered, it means that first of all, you believe in yourself, and that belief leads to work in sync with your belief. And basically, it's about the impact that you have on lives around you. So, female empowerment to me is making females understand, especially in our culture and society, that really it is you become what you want to become. You can perceive of a million barriers around you. It's the way you see things. So be strong, be out there. The sky's the limit. And the most powerful weapon or tool in your hand, the transformative tool in a female's life or in any life, especially a female, is education. Educate yourself, educate your daughters. That's the only way forward. And give them the opportunities to then um, lead empowered lives and in turn enable others to live empowered lives.
So, as you've just mentioned, like a while back, that there was actually no glass ceiling ever present in your case, right? But like, would you like to share something about your personal journey of this when you started your career? Like, probably if you had, faced any sort of biasness because of the kind of patriarchy society we live in, and since we're talking about empowerment, so yeah, related to that.
So, luckily, I was born in a household where female empowerment was already at the forefront. My mother
Mashallah.
was an educator, and she was a social, I
Active.
would say, transformer, because she always saw the community around her and wanted to make an impact. About 30 years ago, she started the Roshan Khayal Forum. She had educational institutions that she ran, and when I was a student at NED and I was 19, that's when I started my first business. So, okay, I forgot to mention to you that I'm also an entrepreneur. So when I was 19, I started it was the first store that catered to both men and women's fashion. It was the first of its kind. And at the age of 20, I was able to, just to give you an example, that I was
Hmm.
able to afford to buy a car
Oh,
at the age
mashallah.
of 20. So
Wonderful.
really, there is no ceiling. And okay, so perhaps you would say that I was fortunate enough to have those circumstances, but then there were lots of times later on in my career when there would be opportunities more for men than for women. But
Yeah.
you just need to have that confidence. And whatever the circumstances are, you need to make the best out of those circumstances. It's really seeing whether the glass is half full or half empty. If you're
Very true.
always
Yeah.
going to see the glass half empty, you'll have a million excuses not to be able to do the things that you want to do. And if you see the glass half full, like my friends often say that, um you probably are twins or triplets because one person cannot do all this work. And moreover, I am proudly a daughter, a daughter-in-law, a mother, a wife, a sister, an aunt. So those are very important roles. And by playing those roles, one would feel that it shows some weakness. That is where empowerment is the most, when you can be
Very
in those roles and actually enable those people to benefit from who you are, and in turn you benefit from who they are. So it should always be a
absolutely.
win-win.
I mean, that's so. And like women in your family, mashallah, like especially your daughter and all these, young women in the family, you might be an inspiration to them. They might be looking up to you already because, I mean, it's always so warm and welcoming when we see that we don't have any barriers from within the family, at least, because the society always holds one problem or the other for, women in Pakistan, especially if we talk about this kind of an underdeveloping society where we are. When we're trying to do something, always like, like taboos are there and various stereotypes are there. So, like, another question that I have for you is that, like, what are some common challenges that women actually face in the leadership roles, especially in our country when they try to do something on the leadership level?
So let's backtrack and let's first see the challenges that a woman has to face to achieve that leadership role. I think there
Hmm.
are more challenges in achieving that role. And you
Me too.
will be surprised to know that it is usually another woman who is the challenge.
Oh.
So, very often, sadly, even now, though it is decreasing, uh, mothers would primarily want, as soon as their daughter is old enough, and not even old enough, the first thing they probably perceive is not that she would be able to stand on her own 2 feet, but for
Hmm.
her to get married.
Married, very true.
So, I mean, marriage is lovely, no problems at all. But I think primarily a woman should first empower and enable herself to be able to stand on her 2 feet. Because even after marriage, let's say, living in the current economic conditions the world
Hmm.
over,
Yeah.
one person cannot support two or three or four. If you have two kids, then you are four people. So one person cannot afford four. So it's
Yeah.
the woman has to work side by side with the man, or the man has to work side by side with the woman to be able to have a good life. So I would say the biggest challenge is for women to change that mindset, and then for men to also feel, the brothers and fathers,
Hmm.
that let the daughters and sisters go out. I mean, why do we see the society as an evil society? I think it's a very enabling place. And if you really ask me, um, have I ever met anybody who's really been a threat or to me being a female? No, not really.
Uh-huh.
So maybe these perceptions are also in our mind. And
Yes.
again, I would say the biggest challenge is the mindset. We have to change the mindset. It's okay for a woman to get educated. It's okay for a woman to leave the house. It's okay for a woman to have a career, and it's okay for a man and a woman equally to come back home and then contribute to the household. Because
Oh,
if a man
absolutely.
is away and a woman is away, then clearly at that point they are fulfilling the needs of the workplace. So
Very
when they
true.
come back to their home, that's when they have to fulfill the needs of the home. So really, there should be no disparity between the roles of men and women. You're all human beings.
Absolutely, I totally second that point because this also is actually a very weird, like chaotic thing over here in our society that women are meant to do the house chores only, and men are meant to go out and work. And even if the woman goes out, still it's her responsibility solely to take care of the house and kids, which I also completely disagree to because it's just a notion that we have preconceived or created on our own. Even if you
And
look at
also, Javeria, the notion is that, so this is like a funny anecdote I'm going to narrate to you, that, one of my older aunts, like
uh-huh.
my grandmother's age, it was like saying, she's a really good wife. She irons her husband's clothes, and she takes out his clothes every morning, makes food for him, lays the table out, prepares fresh chapati. And, that is nothing wrong in that.
Yeah.
However,
Hmm.
nothing wrong in also saying the husband is really good, takes out his wife's clothes, irons them for her, puts the food on the table. The point that I'm making here is that we need to realize that there's an economic responsibility more than that. So if you're able, and in our society where there's so much poverty and so many people live below the poverty line, and
Hmm.
if you're able to provide jobs to all those people who are your support staff, so we should refrain from calling them anything else but a support staff, because they support our homes and our lifestyles. They are there, so you're enabling them to earn a livelihood. And rather than ironing that piece or that shirt or cooking that chapati, you can actually go and impact many more people with the skills and talents and attitude and aptitude that you have. And that's only when our nation will emerge as a strong nation. Because if women are 51% and men are 49%, and we say that women should not work, then how can 49% of any nation lead the nation to economic
Height.
empowerment and progress?
Very true, very true. Absolutely. So, like, what kind of qualities or skill set do you think that the women, the ladies, young entrepreneurs should possess actually to like fulfill that leadership role or those responsibilities?
So I would say the number one quality I would always count on is courage and bravery. You have to be brave. You have to be courageous. And what does that mean? You have to be brave enough to work with grit. You need to be courageous to continuously work with determination. You need to be brave enough to have a goal and achieve it. You have to work not only hard but also smart, because working hard is like, the analogy would be, is hammering a nail into a piece of wood with a plastic hammer. So you'll be
Right.
hammering day in day out for the rest of your life. It won't go in, and you'll be saying, I'm working so hard, but it's not happening.
Yeah.
However, if you're smart along with working hard, you pick up the right gauge of a steel hammer. One, two, three blows, the nail is in. So work hard and smart. And really, the qualities that a woman should have are not different from the qualities that a man should have. So it's basically a commitment to the goals that you want to achieve, setting the targets, and a backward design. So you set the target, and then you design it backwards, that this is where I want to be, this is where I am today. How do I achieve, and what should my journey look like? And then adopt. So it's never going to be a vertical, like a straight line upwards. It's always going to be a spiral of learning, because you are constantly learning. So it should be an upward spiral that should take you upwards. So those are the qualities that one should have.
Lovely, lovely. And like, who was there actually who inspired you when you started off your journey as like a leader, as a mentor?
So, my inspiration have been my parents.
Mashallah.
And then my inspiration have been my parents-in-law. And then my inspiration has been my husband. And then my inspiration have been my siblings and my children and my nieces and nephews. And if I look beyond this, then my inspiration have been my students. So over the years, I have been inspired by them. That's the future generation. So are we doing them a service? And at the end of the day, my inspiration comes from the fact that when I die, as we all have to, and when Allah asks me that you were given this role of responsibility, what did you do? So that is what drives me, that I want to tell my creator that yes, I was there to serve and I lived a life of service. So that's my inspiration.
Mashallah. Actually, this thing, this passion, this feeling that you just elaborated, I believe it exists in all the true educators and passionate people who actually do want to do a service to the education industry and the society in general. And it just took me down in the memory lane when you were talking about taking inspiration from the students. That I remember, mashallah, you at the leadership principalship role, like how you used to celebrate the students and teachers, educators all the time, like in every tiny win, whether it was the result, it was some sort of achievement they've done, any benchmark they've met
Yeah.
in the class. Mashallah, like I've learned a lot from you, like always celebrating people and just rewarding them. So it's
Acknowledgement and appreciation should always be a very focal part of our lives. We need to acknowledge and appreciate, because
and
at the end of the day, again, going back to the concept, the idea that they are all Allah's nemats. So whenever you see something good, or acknowledge it, appreciate it. It's a
and,
creation
and
of
this
your
is the
creator.
strength of a true leader, no? Like because bosses are everywhere, but leaders are very few, and only leaders know how to appreciate and uplift their people who like are
And
working under.
another thing, Javeria, that as a leader, I feel is I constantly advise my teams that my success is I become better. My success as a leader is not one where they can't function without me and I'm this something somebody. So my success is enabling them to be so strong and such capable leaders in their own right that I become dispensable, whether I'm there or not there. They work to levels of excellence and not at levels of mediocrity.
Mhm. That's actually something
So
very
yeah.
special about you that also makes you, unique. So, like, in your opinion, how can organizations become more inclusive or foster a more inclusive environment for this women empowerment or, like female leadership roles?
So I think first of all they need to realize that we as a nation absolutely need it because of the percentage of divide between males and females. There has to be a change in the mindset. There has to be a change in the mindset because when a woman is strong and playing her role, is formidable, is really doing her the task assigned and being innovative and creative, it's always like, oh, she's has these manly traits and is less of a woman, and she is you know it will be a very negative connotation. However, if a male leader does that, it's always like, oh wow, he's so strong, he's so brave. So that mindset has to go. We must realize that there is no stereotyping. It's not that men can perform better than women. It's not that women can perform better than men. It's just that physically we are different. But in terms of having, I mean, the other bodily functions are the same. The brain is the same, the heart is the same. So, and when people say that women are more empathetic than men, I disagree, because why are we again giving it that stereotypical role? Why will my son not be as empathetic as my daughter is? Why do we say it in reverse? So it's all equal. We have to develop that mindset. We have to actually consciously, organizations need to be gender neutral. So they need to hire, if there's a dearth of female workers in that organization, they have to consciously break that gap or lessen the gap and make it equal, because again, going on the statistical population numbers, we need to do that. And at the heart of it is that change of mindset. Men and women are equal, not physically, because men are strong, there's no denying that. However, they are equal in all other ways, and they should be given equal opportunities.
Absolutely. I so agree with this thing that it's all about the mental makeup. Everything starts and ends over there in the head. I mean, if people
And
just.
more so now, Javeria, because now as the world is progressing, it's less about physical power, right? It's more about mental power.
Yes, the
So,
AI
so
tools,
now more than
everything.
ever before, so when you go back hundreds and thousands of years where physical strength mattered, because to be able to survive, you had to go after those huge, big animals that were as big as buildings way millions of years ago. Physical strength. So men were inferior, perhaps because they were physically inferior. But the world that we live in today is uh, is really physical
More
strength, no
technology
strength, more
driven.
about mental strength.
Yeah.
And that's why it has to be more gender neutral.
Very true. Absolutely. So, like, talking about this, gender bias over here. So, have you personally ever faced some sort of discrimination, like by working anywhere? Do you remember anything in your journey? How did you navigate through that? I mean,
You know, now that you ask me that question and it makes me reflect, actually, it's always been to my advantage,
that's
oddly enough. Because, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say, I love tandoor ki naan. So
uh-huh.
let's say if we go to the market in a neighborhood and I
Uh-huh.
stand in the line,
Yeah.
I feel embarrassed because if there are five men in front of me, I get the naans before they do.
This
So,
happens even in banks. I do that. I still feel this thing that if that's a huge queue of men and they like start catering the woman first. So
yeah,
I don't have that mindset. We all are consumers. It's fine.
yeah. So I think in terms of being respectful, I've never had a bad experience. However, I do feel that in the workplace, women are undermined,
Uh-huh.
and men are by and large valued more. So
Mhm.
that mindset has to change.
Yes. And then again, the disparity that has always been there in terms of the pay scales and everything. And you
Absolutely, that
see the
has to
various
change.
various industries, even
Yes,
people go on about saying that even female actors, they're paid like quite
yeah,
heavily. And female actors, as compared to them, no matter if they're doing the exact same work or probably even an inch
yeah.
more, they're not up to that
So
mark.
that absolutely has to change. I think in the showbiz world, I think that they are kind of lessening the gap now, but in the corporate world, it definitely has to be looked into, and it definitely needs to change.
Uh-huh. And it's a very grave reality, but since I've always been dropping truth bombs in my podcast, so I really have felt this one thing that you must also agree to this thing. I believe that if we talk about part time educators, so if we see a male educator, he might be going anywhere and he'd be paid in six digits right away just for like 2 hours of his presence at any workplace. And then that same person moves around in various schools throughout the week for like 2 3 hours per day hardly. And whereas a female is always asked to be committed for the whole day, and she's even not hired as a part-timer to begin with, or even if she is, she's not paid up to that level as a male educator is. So I don't
So I
understand.
would, so perhaps, Javeria, perhaps that is changing now.
In our
So
education sector.
it is changing because
Really?
so just again reflecting on it, um, at least in the world of education, I think the barrier is less. I would say it's more dominated by females. So it's a female dominated environment, by and large, the world over, by and large. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers or statistics, so I think the difference is less there, um, and perhaps, but I think it is changing. So at least male and female teachers are paid equally.
That's so good to know, and a big release, mashallah, because it's been like 2 years that I'm at least out of school for now, but you still, mashallah, being very much there and, on the like hiring position. So definitely you can relate to the experience. Yeah. And like, so how important do you think work life balance is for like the people, the women, especially who are in the working leadership roles, and how do they, establish that particular balance? Like
So
once.
I feel that work-life balance absolutely has to be there, and in my case, and in any case, family should come first. But it does not mean that you um, just are within, you just serve your family and that's it.
Uh-huh.
um, you have to focus on your work, keeping the family pivotal. It's it's going to be very difficult. And when we talk about a changed mindset where men and women are going to be equal, So it's going to be equal. And when we say equal, we mean equal at the workplace, equal at home, equal socially, equal in all
Fear.
aspects and fields of life. So it is tough to maintain that, but anything of value in life is tough, right? So anything that comes easy is really not that valuable. Anything that really has an impact on your life is difficult to achieve. So it is a difficult balance, but it is not impossible. And luckily, we live in a culture where we have grandparents and uncles and aunts and very strong and a strong family system. I think my advice to the younger generation is that value that, because very often we feel that uh, parents-in-law or is it's a burden and so on and so forth. I think contrary to that, when I went to do my masters, my
Mm.
daughter was 9 and my son was 6, and
Oh,
really my parents and my parents-in-law and my husband were the biggest supporters. I mean, if they weren't there, there's no
mashallah.
way that I could have gone. So behind every empowered female is the family, it is the people around her, the community. That's why the mindset of the family, of the community, makes a difference. And vice versa, for a successful man, it is the family, it is a female or females around him that enable him to do so. So I think, really the way the world right now is, where strength does not make a difference and it's about intellect and your cerebral power, all the more reason I feel that we really need to kind of get used to the idea that, okay, for the sake of, you have plants and animals and tables and chairs, so you have different things that serve different purposes. So for the sake of clarification, okay, men and women, but really it's what difference is between an empowered CEO female and empowered CEO male? What is the difference? No difference.
Yeah, very true. It's all about the qualities and what they bring to the table. Like,
Yeah,
mm.
I think the conversation should now stop about female roles and male roles and female empowerment, and it's just empowerment. I
Very
mean,
true.
that mindset, but yes, the mindset has to change. That
Mindset needs
mindset
to
has to
change,
come.
but again, it's still, I mean, even in this era where now even the pandemic taught us a lot of things and has made a lot of things important in our lives, but still, we do see this weird gap. It still is sort of diminishing, but it's still persistent. Really,
Yeah, yeah,
really
it
hope
is.
that,
It is. It is very much there. But that's what I'm saying, that we all need to consciously change that mindset. We need to, like a few years ago, it was like, should we have digital? Should we not have digital? Should we have digital education? Should we not?
absolutely.
I would say, "Bhai, it's like a wave coming towards you. It is coming towards you. Why are
Yes.
you saying whether it should, it shouldn't? It is." So
Yeah.
men and women need to be equal. I mean, now we should be actually talking about what are the interventions, what is the disruption that needs to happen to enable men and women to have equal opportunities and to
Yeah.
function in equal ways, whether it's at home or whether it's at the workplace. Those are the conversations that we need to have.
Also, I'd appreciate if you shed a few, like if you shed some light on these few strategies that you're talking about for this kind of intervention. So please go on and share some to the audience so that people
So,
can pick
so
at
the
it what
number one strategy is focus,
uh-huh.
change the mindset.
Mindset. Everything
That,
begins from there.
that's the easiest. And then consciously, I mean, on boards. So when
Uh-huh.
you have boards of trustees, boards of directors,
Uh-huh.
right now, I think it is that you need to have one female member at least amongst 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. I feel that slowly. Why slowly?
Mhm.
Rapidly, we should go towards an equal number of males and females on the board. Why not? You have
Right.
very capable female leaders,
Absolutely.
and then equal opportunities for both men and women at the workplace. If a woman has a baby, and physically, I mean, women have babies, instead of giving her just a month off, give her 3 4 months off, so she can have mental peace, a physical peace. The same way, why not give a man also at least 2 to 3 months? Because why, he should be at home helping the wife out, and um, making sure that statistically in organizations there's a 50-50? Why are we okay with an 80-20 and very happily then we have celebratory events where we celebrate that, oh, we have 20% women working for us, 25%. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. So let's celebrate that. But having a 50-50. So again, consciously, not just leaving it to chance, but actually visibly, consciously, physically, with all that one has, making sure that men and women have equal opportunities everywhere.
Absolutely. So some these were some of the strategies that you would like our audience to work upon, and especially the people in the leadership roles, because everything is in their hands since they're the decision makers. They have the authority, the people in position and power. If they look into these things, so any like person who you saw, like who started as, I mean who came to the leadership position and mashallah is doing so well, and as you said, you got inspired by a lot of people in the family. But out of the family, if I talk about, then
So, other than the family, I'm a trustee at the MALC, and I was very inspired by Dr. Ruth Fowle. And at the age of even in her 80s, she would walk around with her laptop, with her iPad actually, and she had really ideas. And so I like people who don't just talk about work, but role model it. So she would go to the remotest parts of Sindh and Balochistan where you could not go in a car or a jeep. She would go on the back of a donkey or a mule. But so we don't. So our speciality at MALC is that we go to outreach stations where other doctors and medical personnel can't go to, and so she was inspirational, and so a life of service, and so other than that, I think Dr. Ruth Fowle.
that's so amazing, mashallah.
and
And
and actually each and every and also actually each and every person who's actually may had an impact in the world, I am really impressed by. And why? So professionally, with experience in life, I feel that when people who are who have the ability to add a high value to things around them or are true leaders, they are curbed or prevented from really carrying out the good work that they can, because um, so they are in a minority, right?
yeah,
Clearly, I mean, I wish it were a majority, but it is a minority, and the majority will try to curb it. So, curb the actions. So, any leader who actually achieves the set targets and attains them successfully and reaches the success criteria, I am very inspired by them, because if you ask them to tell you how they achieved it, it would be not something like, oh, it was so easy, it happened in 2 days. It would be a story of grit and determination and lots of barriers on the way. And that's why when I said previously that you need to be brave and courageous, because on the way there are so many barriers, there are so many disablers, there are so many impediments, there are so many hurdles, that you really need to be determined and have that grit and be brave and courageous to carry on doing the good work that you had set out on doing,
very true.
and to work as a team, because one person will never achieve anything that is valuable. So teamwork is very important, and so I'm inspired. And actually, going back, so Javeria, I am still inspired by my students to this day, to this
Mashallah.
to this day and date. Yes.
And it's so beautiful to see you talking about that, because every word you're saying I can relate to it, because when I remember my time working under your supervision, so like I've learned this thing from you, that mashallah, how you used to go around and like just like tell everybody to work in teams, collaboration, you used to focus that on a lot. So it just reminds me of all those wonderful memories. And it's always so good to see leaders, because honestly, in all honesty, it's just not that I'm saying it for the sake of saying, but what true leadership is, or actually how a leader and a boss, the difference of these two people, what is the difference. I actually learned that at HPS while working
Thank
under
you
you.
so much.
Because
That's very
mashallah,
kind of you.
pleasure's all mine. Because you see, till date, you can like literally, even if you ever talk to anyone, you'll always hear this thing from them that yes, Javeda still says this thing, and I really miss that era. I mean, किसी किसी इंसान का तो कहते हैं ना एक वो एक दमाना आता है, बस it was like your time for me there, like it was
Thank you
so
so
good.
much. It
So
was a pleasure
mashallah,
working with you.
thank you. And
And
I
you
have
know
so
how I sign off on my emails, even my in my leadership position, I always write right beside you.
right with that. That's so cute.
So
I
not in the
remember you
front,
sending me
right
emojis
beside
and
you.
all
I will
those.
always be with you, right beside you. I will give you the credit. I will take the blame, right beside you.
Right. I still remember all those email replies. In fact, I like when we had to sign off board and I had to sign off board from school, and when the email account was supposed to be suspended, I took the snapshots of those beautiful emails before leaving, because as beautiful memories of the leaders, you people, the way you used to reply with those cute emojis and all those, icons and all those lovely messages to empower the people who are working. And I mean, it was so good to see that, because at least I experienced like that kind of a leader in my life for the first time ever. So it was like everything to me. So
I hope you
what
meet
would be
many
your,
more, and I hope you become that kind of a leader, and even
inshallah, I'm
better.
really, inshallah, working towards certain goals, and to do
It's
something with
lovely
all
to
that
see
fire in
you doing
future.
what you are doing. It's so impressive. It's
Thank
absolutely.
you so
So
much. It
before this
really
show started, I learned a lot from Javeria. So I was asking her about how this video went live and how she is where she is today. So very inspirational. So
I
congratulations.
owe the entire credit to my mentor, Miss Saima Imran. I can never thank her enough, because, like, just if I look a couple of months back, I never thought that I'd be doing these kind of things, or let alone being an entrepreneur, and finally
I would love
starting
to
this
meet her.
journey.
Yes.
Inshallah, inshallah. Definitely. And like, what would be your advice or word for our people out there about, like, say you've been talking about the mindset thing, right? So like, we see a lot of as you said, that discrimination amongst women for each other. Like if one is on the leadership role and if other is trying to succeed or come to that certain level, there's this pushing down culture, or this weird thing कि नहीं, मतलब if somebody's on the top, they wouldn't like anybody else to reach that position. So how can they uplift?
So there I would say that build your skills, have confidence in your skill set, believe in yourself, and I don't know if you remember, but I would also say that your name doesn't. So professional nirvana is when your name becomes unimportant, and it's the work that takes you forward. So wherever you see something good, something of excellence, you say, "Oh, it must be that person who's done it." So
Hmm.
that's professional nirvana. Your name doesn't have to be there. Like many a times, I will not even write Annie Shehzad at the bottom of an email. So it's not important. um, so achieving that professional nirvana, and having confidence in yourself, and always remember that you are good. So what is good? So if you were a good person in the jungle, so let's say you are all by yourself in a jungle,
Hmm.
and you are called good. So good how? So, what is good by itself? So,
Yeah,
you're a good person, or
very true.
you're an honest person, or you're
Hmm.
an inspirational person by virtue of your impact on others. So, if
Absolutely.
we were to understand and realize breath we take, every word we speak, every action that we do has an impact on people around us, then perhaps we will be the best version of ourselves. Because who I am is because of the others around me. Who am I by myself? So,
Absolutely.
having that attitude of mind, and again, knowing that the world will continue without you, right? So,
Yeah,
you're very dispensable.
very true.
So, having that attitude of mind, even when you are an active professional, that the ultimate goal of leadership is to make yourself dispensable. When your team becomes so strong that they can work without you, is true success. And I think if one can achieve that, then there will be no more pulling down and pulling on the side and this and that. It really is. Why waste your time on that?
True.
Why don't you spend your time in researching, in building your skills, in being the best version of yourself as a professional, as personal. So, even when I advise schools and all, in education institutions, I don't call it training, because in my eyes, you train a monkey. We are not monkeys, we are human beings. It is continuing personal and professional learning. And
Yeah.
the longer you're out there, so if I've been an academic for 30 years, all
Mashallah.
the more reason for me to learn, because my knowledge, if I don't learn, will be 30 years old. So when people say, "Oh, don't talk to me," I have 25 years of experience. Perhaps it's 25 years of experience of the same thing over and over again. So
Very
spend
true.
your time in researching, in talking to people. You know, Human beings are immense sources of learning. There's more learning when you travel, when you talk to people, when you explore other systems than even reading. And there's this Japanese philosophy called Shoshin. Shoshin is a beginner's mind. So when you see everything with a beginner's mind, that's when you truly excel. Because if you don't have that mind, then it's like my way or the highway. I know it all. A beginner's mind is what makes life worthy of living.
Absolutely, really beautiful. We also have a comment by Ms. Afsheen Hashim. Anii Shehzad is my mentor, fearlessly advocating women's empowerment on this live podcast. Your dedication is shaping a brighter future for us all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's lovely.
Such a beautiful comment. And you also mentioned that you co-authored a book, by the way. So why don't you tell the audience about your book also?
So, my mother, who was an educator and a senator, she wrote a book on education, and she, I think, wrote it in 75. So, many,
Uh-huh.
many years ago. And it's the prescribed book for the bachelor's and master's classes in education. So, when I
Uh-huh.
was doing my B.Ed in Karachi from the Karachi University, her book was one of my course books. And it's also in many international libraries and referred to in many researches. So I revised and updated her book about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay, mashallah, that's wonderful. So, what was the name of the book that you just mentioned? I'm sorry.
It's an introduction to educational history, psychology, and sociology.
Okay,
and,
great. So,
and
like, it's for
also
educators.
but also very frequently I write articles on gender empowerment, on females in education in pertaining to our country, because female enrollments, so enrollment is very low, and female enrollment is a minor percentage of that low enrollment. So even the thesis, my research is on schooling of girls in lower socioeconomic
Okay,
areas of Pakistan.
right.
So I write a lot of articles, I do a lot of research there, a lot on curriculum, a lot on teachers, a lot on enabling females to enter educational institutions, and so on and so forth.
That's impressive. So, is there any way we can access to your articles actually?
Actually, if again, honesty over modesty, just Google my name, Annie Shehzad. It's
Okay.
AINEE
Uh-huh.
and Shehzad, and you'll
Yeah.
see all of those articles.
Yes, and we can also see the name over here on the screen on your window. So
Yes.
anybody who wants to access to the articles can see the spelling from
And
there.
I am always there as a mentor to any people out there. It gives me great inspiration to see the younger generation doing such valuable work as they are now. I think this generation is way better than our generation.
Oh yes,
Because once
absolutely.
once I asked my son that, okay, Samir, what are you going to do for Pakistan? And I think he was 6 or 7 years old, and
Uh-huh.
he's very astute. He's very critically strong, very analytical.
Oh,
He
mashallah.
turned around and said, "Mama, what has your generation done for Pakistan?"
A question like from there. A question over a question. वैसे सवाल तो अच्छा था बेचारा, yes. Because like seriously, it's so sad to see that actually the things that could have been done have not been done by our generation, the yester generations, just because of the mindset again, the
Excuse me,
war.
Javeria, you are the next generation. You're not my generation. So you
But
guys are doing really
I
good
still have
work.
people who are, younger than me, mashallah, our students who are filled with so much, fire and fury and passion. We've got a question, I believe, from our guest, from the audience, sorry. Afsheen Hashim has a question for you, I believe. Why is there a perception that women are advised to play it safe in decision making, and how does this impact their approach in risk taking in the workplace?
Okay, so I don't know who gave you that advice. Absolutely not. Women should not play it safe at all. Women, again, like I said, whether it's a woman or a man,
Uh-huh.
equally, one should not play it safe. One should be a risk taker, because unless you're not a risk taker, it means you don't want to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And any decision that's difficult to make is a decision that's going to have a very high impact. And there will be bad decisions. Every
Mm,
decision that you make will not be good,
definitely, yes.
but if you repeat the same thing, then it's something that I would call a mistake. But if you take a decision and take it boldly, take it bravely, take it upon yourself, be responsible for it. And if you don't achieve the intended outcomes from it, that's
Mm,
fine. You can re-strategize, and
mm,
that's how the world is. So if you see one of the 21st century skills, it's also flexibility, it's
mm,
innovation, it's creativity.
mm,
So by virtue of being flexible and innovative and creative, it
mm.
means that you're constantly upping, that spiral of learning.
It
So
goes up.
that's what you're on.
Mm,
So absolutely take that decision bravely. It happens, very good. It doesn't happen, learning, reevaluate it, re-strategize it. And
mm,
what I believe in is that before taking a decision, focus on four things. So this is a tip. So focus on what went well, and even better if. And the other two things that you should focus on is what will work well and what can go wrong. So be analytical, consult your team, engage in teamwork. Don't, I'm not saying act like this emperor and say, I want this done. Not at all. But be quick, be bold. But do all of this and then take the decision and stand by it.
mm. Lovely. Again, it's a win-win, right? Because as you said, that if it's good, if it went well, then it's absolutely wonderful. If it didn't, then again, growth takes place. That's how many more things
Exactly.
take place.
Exactly.
One
It
grows,
just
right?
shows that you're a strong person. You took the risk.
Hmm.
It didn't go as it was planned to. So, fine, do it again. Do you know that? So, we look at Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players.
Hmm.
He missed God knows how many hoops. He made so many mistakes. He missed out on the winning goal more than 100 times. But he
Hmm.
said, that is how I am who I am. So exactly that. That's how we become who we are. So
Right.
imagine if you have this athlete who's like the world's number one in a 100-meter dash. Did he make that 100-meter dash in that amount of time the first day that he set out to achieve it? Absolutely not. There was a lot of grit and determination and hard work and smart work behind it. So let's learn from that.
Hmm. Absolutely. It was such a wonderful discourse, and mashallah, I can see that people are still like engaged with us as well. I hope everybody loved it and took a lot of learning from this today, because this is a topic that is very close to my heart personally, considering empowerment, especially in a society that we are a part of. So it's always been a crucial thing to do. I mean, be it any gender. So yeah,
So,
and
Javeria, in your own right, you're a terrific leader. Look at what you're doing right now. You're breaking the ceiling.
yeah,
You said that 2 months ago you would not have been able to do this.
yes.
So you took it up upon yourself. You set a target, you set a goal, you work to achieve it, and look at where you are. I am here with you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I am most humbled and honored to be here with you.
I mean, it was such, mashallah, a graceful thing for me when you said that, yes, you'd like to be a part of my podcast. And I was so
Absolutely.
honored if I look just like 3 years back. So I never thought that the person who I'm working under as, like, my principal, I'd be having her as a guest on my show someday. So it's I mean, it's good. I
Very good.
feel that growth has taken place. I feel happy, empowered, alhamdulillah, I'm
Yes,
thankful. And inshallah, I'm looking forward to do something really, really, good for our industry, because this education industry is like everything. I mean, to me, it's given me
absolutely.
a lot. Mashallah, good 14 years now, and no turning back.
Absolutely. You know the saying that you educate a female, you educate a village.
Very true. Yeah, yeah. And then again, an educated mother, she's like, she blesses the entire generations to come.
Yes,
So it's really,
absolutely.
really
It's
important.
intergenerational, yes.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So, any like final word for our audience from your side before we, bid goodbye because we've got.
So, the final words are live your life to the fullest. There is nothing impossible. Everything is possible. Do not procrastinate. Take the responsibility, give the credit, take the blame, enable others, and work in a way, empower others, make them autonomous with accountability, and role model. Role model it yourself, because a true leader is one who doesn't have to actually even say anything, because whatever needs to be conveyed will be conveyed by the way you act, by the way you work. So you don't have to say anything. So I would say act, use less words, use more action, believe in yourself, believe in your creator, believe in Allah. Allah's there with people who work hard and smart, and I am there for anyone and everyone who reaches out. I would be honored. A majority of my life, ever since my younger days, also have been spent in social work, actively rolling up my sleeves and being a part of the task force that can impact change. So, thank you, everyone, and keep shining, keep smiling. You only live once, live life to the fullest.
Very true. And we've also got one more comment from Mr. Mudassir Kaleem saying that Ms.Ainee Shehzad is highly practical oriented and a skilled guide. Oh, yes. A powerhouse of knowledge and intellect, mashallah.
Thank you.
And blessing my feed and my podcast today. How lovely.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much
My
for taking
pleasure.
out your precious time
Thank
and
you.
contributing to our audience. I really hope that the people enjoyed it. Please spread this word and try to apply on the tips and strategies that have been shared with you people today, because definitely these things are very, integral for us if we start working on them seriously. And, we definitely all together can bring a change in our society, the most needed change that we still, have to see, that we have to witness in our industry. Thank you so much,
My
Navani,
pleasure. Keep
and
shining, Javeria.
thank you so much. Thank you, inshallah, and see you people in another episode on coming Friday. That is going to be episode number 4 with a new guest. Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Love
Rafes.
you.